If you're watching this video, the chances are rather high that stepping into a time machine, flying back in time to hear your preferred composer play, whether it is Bach, Mozart, Beethoven or Haydn, is high on your wish list. And if you're a little bit like me, the chances are even higher that you have spent some time dreaming in your life that if you had this one occasion, this one possibility to hear just one performer, one historical composer play, who would it be? That's of course a mind game without a solution. But to be completely honest with you, if I would have one chance to go back, I would skip my personal preferences and go back probably to November 1791 with a box of antibiotics to give Mozart, to give him a little bit longer life. Of course, I would die to hear Mozart play, but to give him a little bit longer life is something that would be something amazing. I mean, imagine that he just would have lived a little bit longer. I would feel very guilty though to Schubert, Chopin, Mendelssohn, and so many other composers that just had a life that was too short. But life is all about making choices, right? Of course, unfortunately, sending you back in time is something I cannot do, but bringing the past back to our days is something that is probably possible in some cases, like in this case where we have a quote-unquote recording of Joseph Haydn made in Esterhazy in 1793. And you hear me right, it's a recording by Haydn. Of course, it's not a vinyl disc, it's not a CD or MP3, but it is an automatic organ that was attached at the beginning to a clockwork. So let's dive into this and have a look at that, because I promise you it is interesting. To be more specific, we're talking here about an automatic organ, a clock that was made in 1793 by Niemecs, who was at the time the librarian for the monarch Esterhazy. So that's the same monarch that Haydn was working for, and he built this machine in 1793. And if one of the most important and known and illustrious composers of those days was working for you, why not put some music of the illustrious Joseph Haydn on it? There is even a story that Haydn was present when this clock was playing and that he would have had influence on the way that this waltz was programmed, so to say. I would say that the other thing would be rather strange, that if such a machine was made with music of Haydn in the place where Haydn worked, that it would be very strange if Haydn would have had no influence at all, or that he would never have heard that organ play. So here we are with a machine that was present at the days that we are studying and caring for so much, that played music. It's a kind of tape recorder. It gives us information, and we can take that information and bring it to our present day. And now the interesting thing comes, what can we learn from that? I will share some excerpts that comes from a video that was uploaded originally by Wintergaten. That's a channel owned by Martin Molen, who's a musician, and his channel is dedicated mainly to building a gigantic marble machine, which is actually an automatic machine that uses marbles to make music. And I can promise you, if you go on his YouTube channel, you will be really excited, because this is a very interesting person to follow. So no surprise that he landed someday in Utrecht in the Netherlands, where is one of the most important museums on automatic playing machines. And they acquired the 1793 Niemecs clockwork, organ work, have it fully restored and playable. So the excerpts you will hear are coming from that video. The links to the channel of Wintergaten and to the Utrecht Museum, you can find them in the description box. And so before we dive into some really interesting conversations in this video that we can share some thoughts about, I would invite you to listen to the result of that clockwork, to the music, so to say, and you will recognize easily the minuet of the clock symphony, Symphony number 101 by Haydn. So there we go. So now the interesting part comes, are we hearing Haydn quote-unquote play? Is this really a true representation of what the intention of Haydn was with this music? And it's often said that these clockworks, that these automatic machines were an exact representation of the music as it was intended.
With this clock, we know that it can't play any slower than this. So this is probably the way they wanted to hear it.
So this is actually a time machine.
This is a time machine.
Back to exactly how Haydn was thinking he wanted the music to sound.
Okay, so my personal thought here is that I'm always surprised people express the idea that these automatic machines gives a true representation of how a composition should be played. Because if I would walk into a room in this case and I wouldn't see this machine playing and people were saying, this is Haydn, really the real Haydn playing, I would be rather surprised, because it's actually a very bad performance. If Haydn would be playing like this, it would surprise me, because the articulation is way off, it's very irregular, the trills are not nice, the music is really not in a very nice accentuated way played. I mean, the performance is way off. If this was Haydn, if he would have signed the machine that he was playing like this, I would be actually disappointed in the great Haydn. And I cannot imagine he played like that, because he played his whole life clavichord. So at least he should have had a touch that would allow him to have these organ pipes speak a little bit better, because it's going so fast that these organ pipes have difficulty of speaking, which might have been the purpose of it all. Often these machines play very fast, and even some musicologists will say, well, that's the way they played at the time. It's just that fast. And even if these machines play in a way that we even today cannot play anymore, you even hear sometimes the story, well, just practice a little bit harder. And if you think I'm being ironical here, it's literally some of the arguments to have those tempi defended in a way that I don't think it's possible. And I will not go into detail in this Haydn minuet, that's for another video, that's for another topic. Just the fascination that we have for those machines lead us to assume, to think that these machines are really true representation of what the performance practice of the time was. And I will replay the same fragment in the interview between the restorer and Martin here, and a little bit longer, and you will actually hear the restorer and not say that it was a true representation of how Haydn play. Here comes the fragment again.
When we have sheet music nowadays from that period, there's a lot of stuff missing. You don't know how fast they wanted to play it, for instance. That's why there's so many different versions of the Matthäus, because you can play it fast, you can play it slow, and nobody knows what the correct way is. Well, with this clock, we know that it can't play any slower than this. So this is probably the way they wanted to hear it.
So this is actually a time machine.
This is a time machine.
Back to exactly how Haydn was thinking he wanted the music to sound.
And now I share with you another fragment. And remember, this museum, if you want to go somewhere that to learn about automatic music machines, that's the place to go. They have a beautiful collection and a year-long, decades of experience and knowledge built up, so they really know what they're talking about. I will play you now a fragment a little bit later where the restorer gives his opinion on what the real purpose was of these automatic machines, or automatic musical machines, and it is a surprising standpoint. Let's listen.
That's actually sounded very, very nice.
Yeah. We got a lot of discussion after we restored it about the tempo, but this is really the slowest it can get because the musicologist said that this was way too fast. But this is what people liked in those days, to have it in a tempo that was not really playable, that couldn't be played by humans. That's what they liked mechanical music to do, to play unplayable music.
Which is exactly what we do with techno and MIDI now.
Yeah, in a way, yeah.
And so literally those machines were not made to copy human playing, but just to astonish people, not only for the reason of being mechanical machine, the astonishing for the production, but also the way of playing. The machines were all to play in a way that humans could not. Humans have only 10 fingers. Most of these machines have more fingers that can play at the same time. So the restorer here makes this point as a general contextual point that I believe it's true. Again, I'm really new to this subject. I've never dived into this, but it's a really interesting subject, and also a subject that you have been touching upon regularly. And so to close this video with, this is certainly a topic that is interesting to dive into more in the future. Having an interview or visit to this clock museum and talk about tempo research, as we do here with Lorenz Gardient and myself, is something I really would look forward to, and we might make this happen. But the overall lesson we take again is that facts are always difficult to look at. You have to reconstruct the context, and that's not always easy. That's really difficult. The contextual reconstruction even is important to make from a certain perspective. Facts is one thing, the context is another thing. Just turn around the facts as much as you can if your aim is to come as close to the original idea of the composer, which again is something that will be impossible, but that's the fascinating thing as well. And when you do that, when you change perspective, you will come to new insights which are refreshing, not only for the way to play this music, but also for yourself on your way, on your journey as a musician or as a music lover. And that's what makes all of this worth doing. So thank you for watching this video. If this is your first time here on Authentic Sound, I'd love to have you subscribed and join the Authentic Sound community, so to say. I'm making Monday videos where I share my performances on my clavichord. There is a new pianoforte that's about to come. On Wednesday we have these short videos, gives you some context, some insights, or whatever. And on Friday I share you parts of my vinyl collection or CD collection or something I find on the World Wide Web to learn from and hopefully to inspire you, because that's the aim, the overall aim of the channel. And if that concept is something for you, hit that subscribe button. It's totally free, and then we'll see each other very soon again. Bye.